Hello, and welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and I'm a congenital amputee of the right hand. In this show, I will interview other amputees and allow them to tell you their incredible life stories. I'll also feature family members of amputees and others who support the amputee community, all in an effort to discuss the challenges and triumphs of those living with limb loss. So stick around and listen to inspirational stories and find out why we say, We're Not Stumped. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today I welcome three special people, and I can't thank them enough for taking the time to be on the podcast. We got John Lawson, Toby Forrest, and Abigail Hawk, and they're kind enough to be on the podcast because they all worked together on a movie that made some cinematic history because it's one of the first movies, it is the first movie, we're going to learn more about it, that cast two disabled people in the lead roles. So we're going to get into that story and more today on the We're Not Stumped podcast, but we always start the podcast with a segment I call In Your Own Words. So Abigail, do you mind telling us a little bit more about you?
Well, let's see. There's so much to say, but we'll start with recent history. So most people know me from the decade and a half that I worked as Tom Selleck's right hand. I'm sure John already has a joke brewing
So do
from.
I.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I said it. You're welcome. Low hanging fruit.
Yes.
So I worked alongside him on a beloved TV series called Blue Bloods, and we just started airing our final 8 episodes last Friday. I have been at this acting thing since I was 6 years old. As local legend goes, I was singing before I talked, according to my mother. She's the local legend. And when I did a production of The Sound of Music, I played the role of Gretel, and that really was it for me. I think people talk about, when they were bitten by the acting bug. I think that was it. I got that audience adoration and I was hooked, and I've been seeking validation for my existence ever since. And I love praise, terrible at taking criticism. And I love what I do. I love the families that my work as an actor brings me. Especially these two. These two gentlemen are extraordinarily special and funny and charming and talented, as you will see. And I'm excited, a little scared for what's next for me as I close the Blue Bloods door. But I'm also really excited. So I'm kind of in like a weird headspace of like pardon the French, oh shit, what's next?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to just live
That's
in it.
French.
That
It
is
is.
French.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
And I
French.
apologize if I forgot to introduce everyone during the introductions. That was Abigail Hawk. We have John Lawson and Toby Forrest on. So I think I may have forgot that. I only went over a few times before we hit record, but I've only
I
been
think you
doing
said
this.
it. I think you said
I
it
think
after
you did.
recording. Yeah.
Gosh,
You're a pro. Did it?
yes. The short-term memories, not like it used to be. But now
Yeah.
let's hear from you, John. I'd love to hear your story.
Wow. Well, I am an upper extremity bilateral amputee, which is politically correct for look, ma, no hands. And I'd always been a performer and on stage. And at 30 years old, I lost my hands in an electrical accident, working for a company, working for a real job, as my dad used to say, in between acting and performing jobs. I played classical piano and played with orchestras and on stages and around the world and all that crap. And I had studied piano for over half my life. And in just a few seconds, it was gone. I was working with a company that painted above ground water tanks, and we were working in an industrial site. And I had an aluminum extension pole extended about 18 feet. And we were on a scaffold on the side of the water tower, and an electric line that was behind me, 21,000 volt line, was a 3-phase line. And one of them arced over to the back of the aluminum pole. So I had the pole wrapped under my arm, sort of as a fulcrum, holding it out, doing some touch up, and it arced to the back of the pole. So the electricity went through under my arm, across the front of my chest, and where I was sort of bent over my left cheek was touching the scaffold. So that was the ground. So the electricity blew a hole in me from there to there. Spent the next 6 months of my life at the North J.C. Burns Chapel Hill. And I did that. You know what? I'm a trained actor. I'm a musician. I'm a singer. There's got to be tons of work for people with a guy with no hands, you know?
Yeah.
And little did I know that that would lead me down a road of 35 years of advocacy for people with disabilities. And I was recently doing given on a panel at a studio here locally in Hollywood. And I went back and found some of my old notes when I first started, actually 35 years ago. And the people with disabilities in film and television then was 0.9%. So it was less than 1% of the people in film and television 35 years ago. Now, to a recent study from USC Annenberg, which the top 100 films in television, we are now at about 2%. So there's two ways to look at that. Okay, in 35 years, we've doubled the amount of people that's in film and television, or we could look at it that about 25% of the population has some form of disability. So that means that there's only 2% of the people that they're only getting to see themselves about 2% of the time. And I think the Lewis figure is they represent over $20 billion worth of discretionary income that could be spent on products and entertainment that they bring into their home. So that's a little bit about me. I am so happy to be part of this film. It started a long time ago, and we can get into that more later because I know Toby's itching to say something.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you, Toby. Thank you,
No,
John.
no, I have the same story as John.
Yeah.
I just stole his. No. I'm actually not a double amputee. I am a quadriplegic. I had a spinal cord injury after diving off of the side of a waterfall in the Grand Canyon shortly after college, and that sort of changed the whole trajectory of my life. I was a jeweler beforehand. I was a musician beforehand, a singer, and I decided to go back to school and study psychology. I was getting my master's in psychology. I had to portray someone with Alzheimer's and wrote a monologue. And my class, after the monologue, said, "How come you're not an actor?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" So I had a chance to do research at UCLA and moved to LA and started hanging out with my good friend Danny Murphy, who was an incredible actor, fellow quadriplegic, and just an amazing, amazing guy. May he rest in peace on his journey up there. And he told me about the Christopher Reeve acting scholarship, which was a competition at the time. So I had no experience. I did the monologue that I wrote, and I ended up winning the scholarship, and it changed my whole life. And instead of, being a well-paid therapist, I became a struggling actor
Yeah.
who was a sometimes well-paid therapist on TV. But what a great journey and what a great path to be on, an opportunity, and to be able to meet people like John and have them in my life, and Abby now, who are real friends and then also real artists and people that I admire, and like collaborators now for the rest of life, like Kelli and Alex, who are resources that I can go to and be like, "Hey, I got this thing that I wrote. Would you look at it? Hey, would you jump on board my short film and make it look, $200,000 more expensive?" So that's really awesome, And so here we are. We're on board this ship, and we're out at the ocean, and let's see what kind of storms we can get into.
Well, let's stay on that ship, and I'll stay with you too, John, to talk about how did you get involved with this project?
Well, actually, my manager called me one day and said, "Hey, I just saw this breakdown for double amputee. It's for a guy that's younger than you are. but do you want me to submit you? And I go, yeah, I've been doing this for over 30 years and I've never seen an actual breakdown for a double hand amputee. So I went over and did the audition. Toby and I live about a mile from each other, and miles and a half, a few blocks. And we've always helped each other with auditions. One will read the part while the other one reads. So I went over to Toby's and he read the part for me. So I just did it with an audition, and that was 7 years ago, back in 2017. And if you go back even further, Kelli actually wrote the script 17 years ago. And it just took a while to get it made. And I mean, there's a whole story there. She started dating her husband, and he asked to read something she had written. He's a DP, a director of photography, and a director. And he started reading the Daruma script, and it was really close to her. And he started laughing. She goes, "What are you talking about? This isn't funny. It's a drama." And he said, no, it's funny. This is a dark comedy. I love it. And they decided to make it. So that's how we got involved, was through an audition. And it was 7 years ago, back in 2017. And we did just a proof of concept. And then they shopped that around. And when they decided to make it on their own as an independent film. So
And the
that's how
movie's
long
called,
we've been with the project.
and it's called Daruma. And I know the
Daruma.
URL is darumamovie.com. For people, I'm going to have all the links in the descriptions, but for people that are listening, you got to go check out the website. It has all the listings of when it's going to be coming out. It looks like November 15th in the Wayfair Theater in Chicago is going
Yeah.
to be one of the times. And all the listings are here. The trailers there. Really well done website. How about
And
you,
also
Abigail?
on
Oh,
November the 15th, it will be available on streaming. So if we're not going to be in a city where we're playing, we're going to be in 7 major cities. I think we're in Chicago, Boston, New York, Minneapolis, Cincinnati, DC, and LA. So if you're not in one of those, it's also available November the 15th at the same time, because we want everybody to see it. And it's very important that people come out and support it, because, as we said, it is the first film in American cinematic history where both lead actors have been authentically cast with disabilities. And we need to show that there is a audience out there for this type of entertainment that's authentically cast.
yeah, absolutely. And Abigail, how did you get involved in the project?
So a couple things that a couple ways that I became involved. So I have known Alex for 8 years now, nine coming up on 9 years, which is crazy. We did a Christmas film together, shot in Buffalo, New York, and he was DP and I was the lead in the movie. And Alex and I have followed each other on social media since that time. We're friends. Um, and there was a Thanksgiving when John and Toby were shooting the proof of concept, and they were trying to work on getting funding. And I just kept seeing Alex and Kelli sharing this stuff, and I kept seeing these jokes come across my Instagram page that John Lawson and Toby were doing. And I was like, what is this? And I was so intrigued. And then I started reading a little bit about the project, and I just fell head over heels for it. And I actually came on board as an associate producer first because my niece Catherine, who passed away 5 years ago yesterday, um, she was born severely disabled, physically, mentally, whole bevy of things that she dealt with. But she, to make a very long, drawn out story short, she really wasn't thought that she would make it much past 2 years old, and she lived until she was 16. An amazing little girl. And, hearing through these Instagram posts how little representation there is in media across the board, not just in movies and television, but really just everywhere, advertising, everything. I really just felt pulled in a way I had never agreed to produce or really put forth more than like $25 here, $50 here to help fund a friend's project. And I looked at my husband and I went, I really, like, I am compelled to bring this home. And because of me jumping in, the film was able to complete its funding. And I was super excited just at that. I got to know that her memory was going to be listed in the credits, and that was all I needed. Well, fast forward like 2 years later, Alex and Kelli come to me and they were like, "We want you to read for the role of Anna." And I was like, "What are you talking about? What?" And I was like, "I can't play this role. Like, this is not like I'm like a walking Barbie. I can't, like, there's no way that anybody would buy that." And they said, "No, no, no, we want someone grounded and strong, and that's what wigs are for." So I just was like, okay. And they saw me from the beginning. They saw what I was capable of, which I can't tell you as an actor how, I'm sure John and Toby can articulate this also, how important it is to feel seen for what you can do outside of what you look like.
Yeah.
And I sent a reading to them and they cast me, and then it was COVID time, and we were off to the races and doing this in the middle of the pandemic. We shot in like early 2021, or at least I did, in LA, and it was just a crazy time to be trying to film something, let alone an indie film. The hoops that we had to jump through were unbelievable, but we did it, and we did it safely, and we did it well. We did it so well. Like, I cannot tell you how proud I am to be part of this film. It's so important. It's so overdue. And I'm so thrilled that we're going to be able to bring it to people and demonstrate the appetite that exists for this kind of authentic content. It's really something special. So
Thank you for that. What a story. That was fantastic. And
I'm
Toby,
actually I'm actually stumped by the story because I didn't know all of that, Abby.
really,
And no, not really, not to that level. And it's so like heartwarming to
yeah,
me because um like it speaks to one, the personal connection, right, that you have, and that everybody does. There's, how do we not all have one degree of separation to disability, right? And the fact that you stepped in, right? You stepped over the line and said, no, 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 I want to be a part of this, either magical disaster or magic or magical thing. and like, that's so impressive, to me as an artist, because that's a risky, scary thing,
I mean,
you know.
thank you for saying that. But here's the thing, like, art is personal. Art is risk.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like, that's why I am so magnetically, like, it's a need that I involve myself in indie film, because we're not there for the money. We're
yeah,
there
yeah,
because it's art, and it matters. Like, it makes such a difference in people's lives. And um I don't want us to forget that. I feel like artists, I
yeah.
just no, I mean, this is a really short story, but I just read right before this call that the Connolly Theater in New York's East Village is shutting down because the Archdiocese has decided that they need to have, it's their building, and they have been, it's just it really, it blows my mind, and it
Yeah,
breaks
yeah.
my heart, because now what's happening is the theater is being censored, and I just think it's so radically important that we keep pushing.
Well, the good benefit of Daruma for me, right, with this film, because this is a blood, sweat, and tears passion project for everyone involved, and um, the benefit, aside from, hey, hopefully the world notices that people with disabilities deserve opportunities to practice their craft and develop their skills, and hopefully have the opportunity to become leads in films just like this, especially ones created by major production companies that have spending power. And but the real payment is if a father and daughter go to see this movie and it inspires a conversation, or two people go to this movie and it inspires a conversation about love, communication, respect, and all the above, and it heals it helps heal at least a relationship or a few out there, then
Mhm.
it's done its job and the payment is tenfold. Like that's the real reason we're doing the thing is because art can inspire conversation and education and awareness, which then will maybe hopefully lead to change.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
God, that's such a beautiful,
Wow.
you articulated that so beautifully, Toby.
Oh
It's just
well.
like, and
We should probably write Hallmark and
yeah, we really should. The other,
yeah.
the other thing I want to say before Toby talks about his, origin story with Daruma, is that I feel like the coolest thing about this film to me is that it's not like, yes, it's authentically cast and that's fantastic, but like, it's not about the disability factor at
No.
all. It's
Yeah.
a father and a daughter and a cranky old man go
It's
on
a
a road
story.
trip. It's a story.
Yes.
Which one do I
Just
play?
these are regular old flawed, faulty, effed up people who
Yes.
mess up
That's
and
it.
do the wrong things and say the wrong things and make the wrong choices. And then they try to, it's so real. And the script is, Kelly's so talented. Like that woman just has so much to say and does it so beautifully. And yeah, I mean, I think when our theatrical release coming on the heels of what's obviously the most important election of our time, is not something to be missed either. Just think this is a time when, like Toby said, conversations need to be happening because you can't have change if you're not talking. And that's our job as artists and storytellers, is to open people's eyes to other experiences. And if we don't do that, then in my opinion, we're not doing our job.
And I really like how you said it's a story. I mean, because it typically would be the story would be centered around whatever the disability is.
Really.
But there's more
Mhm.
to life than me, for example, having one hand. Not much, but there's a little bit more than just that. I'm kidding, of course.
2%
Exactly.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2% more.
It's
So
okay. I
Toby,
gotta
I,
hand it to you.
I do want to ask though, because you were reading with John. Is that how you got associated with the project?
Yeah. Uh
That's great.
John wrangled me in. As he does. So I was just reading opposite of him, and he's like, "All right, one and done. I'm done. Now it's your turn." I'm like, "What?" I said, "He's like the guy's in a wheelchair. You read the other part." I said, "No, it's not even my audition." He said, "Yeah, it's do it anyway." And I was like, "No, it's a paraplegic. I'm a quadriplegic. I don't want me to do a bunch of stuff I can't do." He's like, "What else are you doing right? It's Friday." And and so then I don't know the lines. What I tape on my forehead. So he does that, and then both get called back. We get brought in. We both do the project. I tell Kelli and Alex, listen, this is your project. It's you sinking all your money into it and all the above and all your heart and soul. I don't want to ruin it, okay? Because I'm a quadriplegic. A lot of stuff in this script I can't physically do, and I don't know how you're going to film around these things. Like honestly, and Alex said, we don't care, man. We don't. It's not about what you can and can't do. It's about what you can and can't feel. And we think that you're the guy that can bring this character to life for us. And so they really it took some hard convincing on my part because I didn't want to ruin it for anybody, and I didn't want to screw it up. I did feel that I understood the story so well and the script so well, and it was so well written, and that I felt emotionally, I'm like, okay, I get this. I can do all the stuff that's there. But the physical part was the daunting part for me because I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that people would have to see certain things done. And they were like, no, we'll figure ways around it. And through the magic of cinema and through the eyes of Alex, really, and John's help, and my own ingenuity at some points, um, you don't have to care about any of it, because it doesn't matter how my character is jumping into the wheelchair and going out to confront John, or getting in and out of a car, or going to the bathroom, whatever it might be. Yeah. Like, none of that matters. It just matters about the relationship and the conversation that's being had, in
if you think
all that
about
stuff.
it, that was nothing that was done specially for you. In an able-bodied program, you see the detectives pull up, and we'll use Blue Blood. You see the detectives pull up to the scene, and there's always a parking place right in the front of wherever they need to be, which I've never understood in New York.
Now, what is that show? I'm sorry, I don't think I've heard of that one. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I was like, this one.
Yeah.
Starring
they get out. You don't see them all the time get out of the car. The next scene, they're right in the middle of the next scene, because we don't need to see all that. We understand.
To me, the most impressive thing about that is that while huge studios are spending tons of money to digitally disable people and focusing on those types of things, now I've got to digitally disable this guy's legs, and I've got to see him transfer into the thing, and I've got to see him do all the disability stuff, right? So that we know he's disabled.
Feel the struggle.
They go, we don't have to spend any money. We're going to actually spend no money and make Toby more able-bodied than he's ever been. And like, what a really cool opportunity, and what a stamp to or like kind of middle finger really to give to big studios, in the sense, and going, you know what, you're spending all this money digitally disable people, green screening their hands. Here John just shows up free of charge. He's got authentically, amputated hands. I've got free wheelchair.
I wouldn't say that he shows up free of charge. It's not like he wants to volunteer for the rest of his life as an actor, like pay the man. But
he doesn't require green gloves.
Correct.
That's, and $1 million budget to get rid of them. But, and Abby, like, it's just so interesting that we both took some coercion to get into this film.
But also, like, suspension of disbelief is a thing, okay? You want to know how many times in 15 years Baker fired her gun? I'll give you a guess. You guys are smart people.
Zero.
That's correct. And she's a decorated detective, and I didn't have. Everybody's like, oh, you must have been to ranges and learned how to shoot, and I was like, nope. Never had to. Like, I had on the ground training when my character was assaulted, and like on the ground stunt training where I had to fall, and then like when I had to punch the guy in the bar, like we did that in the moment on the day, but I never actually had to fire.
So we can't rely on you if we come down to the end of the world.
Nope. And in the zombie apocalypse, sorry, but I'm the first to die. Okay, I'm the first to die.
No. Those dark nights we were walking in Park City, you couldn't protect me.
Do you remember the altitude sickness that I felt and how much my hip was like, girl, stop. Okay, this is enough with the hills, please.
God,
stop it. And I was like, I'm fine. I just got off a plane in New York. This isn't real. No, it's real. I was so tired and thirsty.
It sounds like you guys, I just love the camaraderie between you three.
I was about to tell you it's going to go off the rails here in a second.
We've already gone off the rails.
I love it. But John, I do want to ask you, John, for like a synopsis of the movie itself and then your character. I think that would be very interesting for people to hear.
It really is in a way, Daruma is a rescue story, and it's a survival story, and both of those things make good drama. But you're going to laugh some along the way too, and it's really a love story. It's about and that always makes the best film, because it's about always the family that you're given is not the family that you choose. And that's another part of it too. The story's about a young man who has a one night stand, and the girl gets pregnant and has a baby. Unbeknownst to him, he's moved on. He then got in an accident and became a paraplegic. And social services shows up on his front door. He's bitter. He's drinking. He's, not in the best of shape. And they go, here, we have this little girl. It's not mine. You go, but he had just gotten robbed. He's trying to get money, but he goes, she left you money. He goes, I can get money for this. So he tries to raise the baby, the 4-year-old, and of course he can't. Not because of his disability, but just because of his lifestyle and the way he was living right then. And so he has to enlist the help of his cranky old neighbor that lives next door. They live like in a veterans community in Arizona, actually. And they to drive the little girl across country because she's too young to fly. And Patrick doesn't drive. So, and later on, we find out the answer to all these questions. But of course, in the end, like all good films, everybody lives happily ever after. Excuse me. So, but yeah, it is a story. I mean, it doesn't focus on disability. It doesn't fall into the normal tropes that we see on television today of the super crypt where they overcome all their disabilities and become more normal like everyone else, or the trope where they're you got to feel terrible for them and they're prayed someone who is defined by suffering and their loss, or the most popular, the disabled villain, which has been around the longest because we've all seen the pirates that's missing an eye or has a hook or missing a leg. So it doesn't fall to any of those. And it's just a real good story about two guys who are on this emotional and physical journey, and they just happen to have disabilities. That's all it is. I mean, you could definitely put two able-bodied guys in the parts and it would be the exact same thing. It would be the same story, I mean, but this just happens to feature two guys with disabilities that live in a veterans park, a veterans housing, in Arizona. And then they drive across country and find out they have more in common than they have separate of each other.
And again, this is darumamovie.com to learn more.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm very excited about this.
And I'm sort of pissed too because Abigail got to play Toby's love interest. It's like,
I don't want John, I don't want you to play my love interest.
That's true.
I'd watch that movie. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's
same. Be like
on the dark web, I believe.
Grumpiest old men. There needs to be.
Well, I never laid a hand on him. I can tell you that.
I do think we need to note that Kelli, at the onset of this, was absolutely adamant that the film be authentically cast. I think that is really important to note.
Exactly.
She refused to go the East. She had studio interest. She had it. And they were like, oh, we'll get some names in. And she was like, no, I don't want that. I want these to be people who actually have these disabilities, and we're going to find them. I know they're out there. There is whatever pool we have to dive in, we're going to get there. You say that I was the love interest, John, but I'm going to do a really nice joke here and say that I was actually the little girl, and it took so long to make the film that I'm now 42 years old.
But the little girl is played by Victoria Scott, and she's awesome.
Magnificent.
There's the old adage in film, don't work with dogs and kids. And let me tell you what, this kid stole every scene we were in. She really did.
And it was like one take wonder.
Yeah. And going back to elongate a little bit more on Abigail, Kelli we just found out, and it's been in all the trades, it was just published, that Slam Dance has now started their Indie Features Awards. And Kelli was just honored for excellence and authentic representation of disability on screen. And she will receive the award at the DGA, at the Directors Guild here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, on the 9th of December. Yeah, the 9th of December. So That just came out in all of the trade papers as well. So glad to see her getting some recognition as well. So
And in the house of her husband.
Yep.
She's like, yeah, guess who's getting an award at your golf club?
Abigail, I know you
Oh,
talked
man.
about some of your family and some of the connection there, but what are some of the other things that you hope the legacy of this movie will bring as it moves forward?
Well, I'm like I said, I just think that, you know, like during the height of the pandemic, for instance, everybody consumed art like it was going out of style, and yet funding for arts is the first thing to go. You lose it in schools, you lose music programs, you lose dance programs, you lose acting programs. Another buddy of mine just found out that his entire theater department is being eradicated at the college that he has taught at for decades. Just I think that I want this film. I want as many people to see this film as possible. I think we have made this film as accessible as possible in every way, whether it is to the hard of hearing and or deaf community, whether it is for the visually impaired community, whether it is the captions, whether it is people having wheelchair access, like whatever it is, we are trying to bring it to everyone. And there, of course, are lessons there, but I think that at the end of the day, art is not only supposed to be the risks and uh, the danger in our society, but it's also supposed to just be the mirror, period. Um, and I want people to go to the movies and go, wow, like now that I know that this is possible, maybe I don't have to tell my daughter who has one limb that she can't go into the arts or whatever the case, whatever it is. I just want the inclusion to be there. I just want us to be having the conversations, building the longer tables, lowering the fences, and you know, it's just time. I mean, it's almost 2025. And the fact, like with John saying that yeah, sure, we've doubled the representation, it's not enough. It's not enough. And people feel like I don't want people to feel isolated. I think the fact that we've been so increasingly isolated, even though the world is smaller than it's ever been, I don't want that. Art has the capacity to bring us together. And really, right now, it's so important that it does. Holidays are tough for people. This coming out when it is, hopefully, will encourage some conversations around the dinner table, or maybe there to even be a meal around the dinner table. So yeah, I just hope that it's a bright spot. That's what I want.
Very well
you can
said.
tell who the intelligent one is in our group.
Yeah, that was very well said. Thank you for that. And Toby, what
Very
does it
well
mean for
said.
you to be in this movie?
Um, well, for me, it's a lot, right? Because it's the first chance I've had to prove to myself that I have the capacity to do the long haul, to be in every scene in a film, to work every day for 12 hours, to go from this space and time in the character's life to this space, in just a few moments. And that's something that is rare to be able to be able to have, right? Is the opportunity to, one, prove it to yourself, and also to hopefully make it a stamp that proves to other people, hey, uh, you can take a risk on somebody that maybe doesn't have as much experience, but maybe has the life experience,
Yeah.
and give them an opportunity. Like, it took me 20 years to really get to a point where I could be the lead in a film. And maybe that could have happened a lot sooner if someone would have taken a risk on it or a chance, or maybe if I would have even taken more risks on myself. So it's 20 years ago. I won the Christopher Reeve acting scholarship, changed my life. And then this past year at the Media Access Awards, I won the Christopher Reeve Acting Award. And
Wow.
so to have this full circle moment, and because of this film and this part, and because of John, right? It's like he's the impetus. He's the person that was like, no, I'm pouring water on your plant and you're going to grow exponentially because of this. Um, it makes me like emotional.
We've been friends for a long time. And when we auditioned, when we did the callback, we had a scene where we were mad at each other. And it's easy, that's easy to play, I think. You can yell and scream and play mad. And I was married a lot, so I had plenty of rehearsal for that. But there was a scene where Toby and I had to have this close friendship. And I think that's what came through in the callback when we had the opportunity to audition together. And I think that's what the producers and director, what Kelli and Alex saw, and they go, okay, that's why we want these guys. Because we had this real friendship that went back real far, and we both met back, I think, I don't know, years ago through Danny Murphy. I mean, I knew Danny from way back before as well. So,
And the thing is, John knows that the struggle, not only of a life, a challenged, right, physical life, but that of the actor, in the pursuit of just of the thing. And he has been fortunate. We've both been fortunate to have mentors in our life. Like, I had a Danny Murphy, he had a Harold Russell, won 2 Oscars in the 40s for authentically playing a guy without arms. And it takes now 20, almost 80 years for another guy to play a guy without arms. You know what I'm saying? It's mind blowing. And in the 1940s, Stanley Kramer did a movie called The Men with Marlon Brando, and cast Marlon Brando because he's got to get a young upcoming actor to help boost his film and play this disabled character. But you know what he does? He says, I'm going to, all the other characters, authentically cast them with guys straight out of the war that are authentically, paralyzed. And so in the 1940s, Stanley Kramer was doing what directors should have been doing this entire time. If I'm going to take a lead actor and digitally disable him, or or whatever we have to do, at least create a platform around that, to educate others and give them opportunities to advance their careers.
Yeah, very well said. Harold
It's
Russell
mind-blowing.
Harold Russell didn't have another role until 1980 with the Inside Moves movie. And, so 36, 37 years. It's just interesting. 2-time Academy Award winner.
Yeah.
The only person to ever do that with the same role, because I didn't think he was going to win for Best Supporting Actor
right.
in 1947, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So, John, you put us all together, and I can't thank you enough for that. So I'm going to end it with you with the same question, though. What do you want the legacy of this movie to be, and what does it mean to you?
Well, former First Lady Michelle Obama had a really cool quote that said, for so many people, television and movies may be the only way they understand people who aren't like them. And to me, that is so important. The entertainment that we spend our hard earned dollars on, or that we invite into our home, can change people. There's history that Will and Grace changed people's viewpoint on the LGBTQ community, and so hopefully that I did an interview or a podcast the other day, and the guy asked me, goes, well, doesn't it seem like to you there's more and more people with disabilities being in film and television? And I go, it may seem like it, but the numbers don't actually show it because it's been so little that if we just happen to see someone with a disability in the background, we think, oh my goodness, look, they're being very, supportive. So it's my hope is that people will be able to relate to the film, whether or not disability is their experience, but it's a major, and it's not the major theme in the film. And that would empower them to be more affirming that people with disabilities don't fit into these limited tropes, these limited narratives of sympathy or triumph or villainy. So that's what I hope. And of course, that it opens more doors, and that of course we all would get more work, but that when a person with a disability is rolling down the street, it's like, oh, there goes a guy, it's like, I don't have to heal him. I don't have to go lay hands on him and going, oh, you're going to be,
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Yeah. But,
I will lay all the hands you want on me, and please heal me.
Yeah,
Toby, I'll push you down the hill. You want me to push you down the hill?
I'll push you down the hill. I'll do that. Yeah.
Lay your hands on.
It's good things you live in a one-story house and there's no steps. But I just hope that, it changes the view of what other people have about people with disabilities. We're just normal. We're stupid. We're crazy. We're irreverent, and we make mistakes. I mean, just ask any of my ex-wives, they'll tell you. A guy with no hands can make lots of mistakes, but but we are just regular people, and I have grandkids, and I have friends, thankfully, that are on this podcast, and I really appreciate them being here. It's really uncommon for us all to be together, to be honest with you.
They're off screen.
Oh, sorry. I was talking about the folks over here.
What friends are you talking about?
Yeah. Not these two. Not these folks. Yeah. But it is a rare occurrence for all three of us to be together, especially in an interview like this, because we've all done individuals, and we've got, I think, 25 more coming up at some point in time for either one, both, or all. So
well, I'm sure it's with those pesky two-handed interviewers, which we don't want to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
I can't thank you all enough, though, for your time. And I hope nothing but the success for the movie. And I'll say the URL one more time, darumamovie.com. It has all of the information on there. Right. But John, Abigail, Toby, thank you so much. Thank you for putting your life and your effort and your feelings, your emotions into this movie. Thank you for that. But thank you for spending a few minutes with me today.
We're Not Stumped.
Thank you. Like I said, we hope that everybody, if you're not in one of the cities where we're showing, go to the digital streamers. I'm not sure exactly, but you'll find it. I think it's going to be in Hulu. If you'll look around, you'll find it Amazon and a few others. But watch it. We need to get the views so that people go, hey, look at this. This is what will bring more attention to it and make a change in the world, as if people support the film and watch it and they go, wow, we can't believe it got this many eyes in such a short amount of time. So it's available on the 15th at the same time. And as Abigail alluded to, the film itself has closed captions and audio description. So it's
audio description by Audio Eyes, actually, who did the Oscars and some other amazing shows.
Right.
Also, our trailer drops on November 8th, and people can go sign up to watch the trailer drop.
Yes, there is a sign-up form on that website. I should have said that earlier. Yeah. There is a sign-up form. It says get on the list, put your name in there. I encourage everyone to do it.
And we've got swag bags that we're giving away. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, and if you also go to the website and you're watching it online, there is Daruma Bingo that you can play. There's a Daruma Bingo game. And every time they say he's not your uncle. You know, you might get to cover a bingo square. So there's all kinds of things in there related to the film that are fun. And there's also, to close it out, there's also a discussion guide about the film, about disability, and about things that you can discuss with others in the room if you have a disability or don't have a disability. And it's really cool. It'll open up some conversations, like we said, around the table. So
I'm going to download that. And there's also an area where you can request a screening in your own town.
Yeah.
Very well done. Thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abby. Thanks,
Great
Toby.
seeing you guys. See you soon.
Bye, guys. Thanks
Love
a lot.
you guys. Bye-bye.
Love you.
That was the We're Not Stumped podcast, hosted by Mike Bolland. If you want to be a guest on the program, reach out to Mike at his email address, mike@mikeboland.com. This podcast is produced by One Hand Man Productions. If you are looking to start your podcast, go to onehandmanproductions.com.